Hey guys, welcome to yourstory.com. I've got my favorite VC firm with me that focuses on agriculture and healthcare, affordable segment that is. I've got Rema Subramanian, who's the co-founder. How are you?
I'm good, thank you for having me over.
Thanks for doing this at short notice really, and you've invested in 14 companies.
Yes.
The journey has been exciting. You want to talk about the early days?
Yes. So I come from the corporate world, a finance person, spent more than 3 decades in the industry across IT and manufacturing, very early days. I've actually been from start to early stage all my career, worked across some 6-7 companies, except the word startup did not exist those days.
Yes.
Those days the word failure was not about the fact, it was the fact that the business didn't work, that was failure it was.
And how many companies did you work in corporate?
I worked across about 6 or 7 companies and did 2 stints of my own as well.
You did?
Yes.
What were they? What kind of businesses were they into?
I had a joint venture in the financial service segment, which was in very early days of digitization of the financial markets. I started my joint venture with Telematics Financial Services. I had one of my own, where we used to do large mutual funds and companies at that time. And then I also had a garment business as well.
You did garment
as well.
Why did you do garments?
I did have an exposure to garment in very early days of my career. I used to work with a company called as Legwear, which was the precursor to Park Avenue. So in Raymond's in 1981, 81, they started Legwear as trousers for Indian men. And Indian men those days only got it stitched. And this company thought that we will change the way Indian men live. But unfortunately, we did not anticipate that customer behavior is not so easy to change. So even though it was backed by a large company, it failed.
Which is amazing, which is the fundamentals of business.
Absolutely.
You've become a VC now. You know, how did that begin? You met Ritu, your co-founder,
Yes.
At an NGO, right?
So it was a company, it was a place where they were doing, supporting social enterprises. And we were mentoring organizations who were starting up early stages and were trying to build businesses.
Okay. What was the trigger that both of you got along and said, okay, let's go do something in the affordable sector?
So both of us come from backgrounds, like as I said, I have largely in my 3 decades of career, I was from start to early stages where I have, I used to, till growth stages where I have been in my career. She's a PhD in physics, NCR MBA, and then she used to work with global majors from innovation to market. And she's done FMCG goods like Fair and Lovely to Philips TVs, to
that's a rare combination and a powerful combination.
Absolutely.
You know, because she's a PhD who knows what it means to take something commercial also.
Absolutely, and to take commercial as well. So both of us come from very strong commercial backgrounds, and it was to say how do you scale up. And so that DNA was too strong for us, and we saw the wide space in the market, which is the fact that there were sectors which were growing, which had a lot of potential. And these were in 2011, 2012, if you look at it, that the telecom penetration was very, very strong. You could see the changes happening in rural India.
You said the holdings of Vodafone and Airtel.
Vodafone and Airtel you would see in almost every other wall that if you were driving past in India, even in small towns you had more Vodafone and Airtel and Aircel ads than anything else.
Okay.
So that clearly showed the changes that were happening on the ground. And on the other hand, you could also see the aspiration levels going up significantly in the population. So those were triggers for us to say is the fact that which were the frontiers where there was still left which was underpenetrated. We actually met a couple of agri players and then we realized that there was a lot of scope in this space.
And intrinsically enough, you went after dairy in the beginning, right?
That was because of the fact we got a dairy application. We saw a lot of dairy applications coming in. So we decided we would go and investigate. So it sounds very exciting when somebody comes and tells you, I mean, you're new to this place, new to the space, and then somebody comes and tells you, look, look, a farmer gets hardly 20-21 rupees for the milk, but it's getting sold at some 50 rupees in the market. So how would I, I'm going to make it more profitable for the farmer. It
sounds compelling.
Compelling.
Yes.
Sounds, your heart is in there, you want to go and see, okay, that makes sense.
Then you went into the market.
And then realized there was no money, there was no margins that was left.
Yeah. By the way, guys, if you're watching this, they did not invest in a dairy company.
They did not.
Okay, that was the research that they did and realized their incumbents should solve that. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, but initially when you started out 2015, both of you had to put in your own money. The market out there was not ready to invest in agriculture. You had to prove to people that we have a model that works. We are not an NGO but a VC firm for profit, but we are going after the affordable segment, right?
Absolutely. So the agri space itself has huge potential, and technologies. And so the agri space has so much of inefficiencies intrinsic to it that obviously when there are challenges, it also means that there are solutions that can come out of it. And the solutions are not necessarily just in terms of doing better of what's happening, but there could be fundamental changes of how you do that business so that it can make that change.
And if entrepreneurs are watching this, and those fundamentals are margins, understand expenses, they can be from brick and mortar.
They can understand business.
Okay,
So they need to understand their customer. They need to understand whom are they making that product or service for. Is that person seeing value and will they pay for it? Whether today, tomorrow, doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, there has to be intrinsic value of that product, enough for that person to pay that delta that is needed for that availing that service.
What were those first 4 companies that you took a bet on?
The first one that we took a bet on was Crop Technologies. And there we felt that they had a very compelling reason. Those entrepreneurs, which is Krishna and Kunal, they came from technology backgrounds. They worked in large companies. Krishna was working in GE, and where he said, I'm going to use technology. What stood out most was the fact that Krishna had, they started off by creating a product for the farmer. But when they went to the farmer, they realized to the fact, they did that for about a year or two, and they realized the farmer was not going to pay for it. Okay. So they flipped and they said as a fact, can this be of service to the companies? Right? And that was and for a agri buyer or anyone who is in the agri space, their biggest black box is the fact black hole is the supply chain. They have no visibility to it. So this was going to be a trendsetter. I mean, if you go to a large manufacturing setup, each manufacturing company knows till the last bit of what's happening not in the manufacturing side. A large factory would be even subcontracting it. They know each of their vendors, each of their suppliers, their factories are certified, they know where it comes from. But for the agri space, they don't have visibility beyond a particular point. And that is where we felt was a fact, it was a compelling thing. The SAPs of the world does not work in the farm gate and beyond.
Oh, so that's what Croppin came and saw.
That's what Croppin came and saw. So there was a very compelling business case. So why would a large global major like a McCain and Pepsi or a small farmer, a small dal mill owner also not use it? Because he needs visibility to know when and what his produce is going to be. So that kind of compelling was what reason is.
It was interesting. So what are the other 3 companies in the beginning? Names?
The other one was ERC Eye Care.
That was eye care, affordable eye care solutions.
And there again, for example, he was a doctor, and he said as a fact, look, I see this as a space. Now it's not just the fact that I'm starting this, I'm putting my whole career at stake. I was a surgeon. If I stopped operating and start doing
this, was a surgeon?
He was a surgeon himself.
Nice.
And he said, if I'm going to stop this, it'll take me 4 or 5 years to get back. Now that was a big risk that he was taking. And when we went out there, we actually saw as a fact that you had spectacles which were like 100 rupees, 200 rupees spectacles, and you also had 400, 500 rupees spectacles. We found that customers, and so I'm talking of rural Assam, that people were actually picking the 400 rupees one, and there were very few who were picking 200 rupees one. So it goes to show as a fact that there was an aspiration level. People were willing to pay for it. that's what, and we thought that there was a guy who knew his numbers, who was marketing guy, and market invested as well. We invested in Karma Healthcare, which was about digital healthcare, where we felt that the last mile of being able to get to the customer, the patient,
it's
assisted healthcare, to go to the patient. The doctor is sitting in the city who's not going to go. How do you use technology to be able to connect that?
Nice. What about Bharat? You invested in Bharat too as one of your first few investments. What did they do?
So they have an e-commerce for agri inputs.
Okay. And why invest in them?
So there are two parts to it. While the entire agri input space is worth billions of dollars, like close to about $20-30 billion is what the market is like. It's completely fragmented and disorganized as one.
Yes.
There's two things happen with this supply chains in effect. One, because it's so fragmented and disorganized that the farmers never get the right product at the right time at the right price.
They don't get right inputs, fertilizers, seeds,
right quality and at the
yes.
right price, at the right time. That's one major issue. And on the other hand, from the companies, and the major issue is the fact they are unable to have, there's no business intelligence that can be built beyond a particular point because there's no data around the whole thing.
Okay.
So, fact that if you can digitize this entire supply chain, you can actually create a more optimal value chain, which is of how the
and again, the end beneficiary is the farmer. And there's a market reach for all the companies that are getting into this.
Absolutely, and the data that will come with it, you can actually build on the data for various things. So
interesting.
And from the farmer side, to your point of asking is the fact, was it the entire agri inputs, they started with seeds. The reason being that seeds is the first point of entry for a farmer. He knows exactly when he uses a seed, whether it was the right seed or not. If the seed is wrong, his entire crop goes for a failure. And he knows
so that was the hypothesis that they brought to you, or they were executing it already?
They were executing it already.
Nice.
And also the farmer, at that point of time, pays cash for his seeds because for him, that's the most critical part of the value chain.
So he gets credit or something of this sort on behalf?
So currently it is not.
Okay.
But they are looking at the fact that in future that they are looking at various ways in which they can get into it. But the fact that if a farmer has seeds as a first step, he would look at other things adding on. But the seed is very, very critical for the farmer. And then you build that trust in it, because when the farmer sees that I'm getting the right seed, there is far more trust that he has on the product than anything else.
So guys, if you're watching this, right, they had to do 4 or 5 startups in the beginning, and then go to investors, institutional investors, say this model works. They got in 50 crores. They invested in 14 companies. 5 of them that have gone a Series A. One of them which you exited from, right? And now you've got a second cohort announced, where you're screening for applications. Can I announce the fund size? Is that
yes.
okay? It's a 350 crore fund that they've announced. They're screening applications, and where should they apply? Is that an email or in your website?
They can write to info@ankurcapital.com.
Okay, and you're screening a lot?
Yes.
How many applications do you get?
So we typically get close to about 50-60 applications every week.
Every week.
And
good ones?
We would discuss out of that at least around 12 to 15 of them we discuss.
Nice. That's good, 20%.
We do that, and out of that, at least 4 or 5 go for a much deeper discussion.
Okay. And guys, see, they're focusing on the next billion. Again, I'm going to say the affordable segment. If you've got solutions, even brick and mortar is fine, technology is fine. You write to them with a business plan. 5-year business plan is good for you, 3 years?
No, it's more than a business plan, it's a vision.
Okay.
And you should have the numbers on the top of your head. Let's get to the business plan later.
So that
but
means
essentially you need to understand, you need to have a pulse of the customer, you need to have a pulse of whom are you creating the value for, and the larger value that you're creating in the ecosystem is the most important thing. So that you get to know when the entrepreneur speaks. If the person knows that very well, then I think you have after this.
Nice.
Because the business plan is a manifestation of what you can think of and what you
it's a manifestation of your thoughts.
Of your thoughts or something. In 5 years change, and I can actually go back to my first job, which I mentioned about the trousers. I would, because I started my career, and those days were not even when you had Excel sheets, but I did business plans for 15 years as well.
Okay.
Okay. So to be very, very accurate of what I might produce after 15 years. But the fact was that there was nothing that was getting sold immediately. So at the end of the day, the business plan is just a business plan.
It's just paper.
It's paper.
Thank you, that makes a lot of sense. Quick advice to entrepreneurs. You obviously said that your vision is, you need to know your thoughts in business very clearly. What are the advice do you give?
Don't reinvent the wheel. Wherever you can get others who can contribute to what they've already done, take that up. Do something new which you can add to it, which actually becomes a delta.
So you're okay with incremental additions?
Yeah, the incremental addition has to be substantiated. So what I mean is the fact, so for example, a lot of folks would try to do is a fact, instead of getting on people on board who might be able to come with a domain expertise, they would say as a fact, I will go and do it myself. Then you lose a lot of time and energy doing that. Right? And that's not something you should do, because instead of that, if you have a unique proposition, you focus on that. So instead of being a delta change, you will actually be able to make a major change. Instead, because you're not wasting, your bandwidth is not constrained with what somebody else can already bring.
Right. You want to quickly tell the Agrix example, which is a classic case, right? They're not changing the world per se, but it's a great technology that can help the supply chain.
Absolutely, yeah. So when we looked at supply chains, we looked at the fact that supply chains are today, all of us know as a fact, whether it's an agri, it's a fresh fruits and vegetables, or whether it is grain produce, the wastage in India is very, very high. And one of the reasons is the fact that entire thing is still manually tracked, manually assessed. So you have as a fact every stage of the value chain. You have somebody who looks at it and decides that, hey, this is this quality, this is the
quality. In the Monday especially, just people look at, they are trained eyes, so to speak. And
so the farmer has no idea what it will do. So what's stopping is the fact that even digital transactions in India, for example, is very, very limited, or even globally, because of the fact that at the end of the day, you don't know what you're paying for. It's not a manufactured product where you have that value. So we said as a fact, how can we create that delta change? It can be done only when we digitize that.
Great.
So that's where Agrix comes in. Agrix is using hyperspectral cameras to do thermal imaging, to be able to capture the product. So not only they do physical, but they're also doing chemical properties of the product. So you can actually then anybody, even could be sitting in Tumkur, but could be selling to somebody in Switzerland by just ensuring that both could be on the same platform.
Fantastic, guys. They've also invested in companies like Rema, who they're changing the way mammography happens. They're using thermal imaging as well. They've also invested in Tessol, which is another popular company. Business apart, what else do you do? What are your inspirations? What are you reading quickly?
Well, reading, I would say, is a fact has got a little bit now taken a backseat. But I do read a lot of fiction, and I do read Talib is my favorite author. But that was not
Black Swan.
Black Swan is what this. But that was not what has been. I would go back even further. Is the fact that there is a Russian author called as Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which I don't know how many people know about it.
Yes, but I've not read it, but I've heard.
Yep. So which is which has been the cornerstone of the way that I have defined my life.
Any particular book that you read?
You read Cancer Ward or the Gulag series.
Okay.
Both are very inspirational. It just goes to the core of human psychology.
Nature.
Human psychology.
Human psychology.
Absolutely.
Right, and would you say a lot of those readings in your young age has helped you in your business life?
Absolutely.
In what way?
So, for example, in Cancer Work is about the fact that you're doing your job as a radiologist. So you all the time you think you're doing a great job by just saying the fact somebody has cancer, somebody doesn't have cancer. You're very, very accurate to do that as well. When the person feels that I'm having cancer, then that person expects something else from the doctor. When she's going through the whole process that she does that, and then her expectations change. Why is the doctor not doing it differently? Then she looks back as a fact, I was so clinical in my way and I thought I was doing a good job. Right? And I have been in the service industry for very long, and it started making...
So you become more empathetic and
not empathetic necessarily, but start understanding different perspectives.
great.
That life is all about different perspectives. It's never about one perspective.
So that's great advice for you guys, startups. I mean, right? You guys have to look at different perspectives and then focus on on one aspect rather than many things. And if you want, reach out to us. We'll connect you to Rema. We'll put this up on Facebook. We'll put this up in the story. Write to us. Get inspired by Rema. Thank you very much, and Rema.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye guys.